Welcome back to England Now7, and tonight we take you inside the chaos unfolding across Britain exactly 1 year since Sir Keir Starmer's landslide general election victory. The man who promised economic recovery, serious leadership, and a new era for Britain is now being bombarded with criticism, rebellion within his own party, a collapsing job market, and scathing attacks from one of Britain's most well-known voices, Jeremy Clarkson. This is not just political theater. This is a story about broken promises, economic warnings, and a country asking, is this really the leadership we were promised? Let's start with the economy after the end of COVID lockdowns and the reopening of the economy. There was hope that Britain would bounce back strong, but the numbers now tell a different story. According to the Telegraph, GDP in April 2025 actually shrunk, wiping out the so-called mini-boom from the first half of 2024. More alarmingly, the UK economy is now less than 1% larger than it was in summer 2024, a clear sign that there's been no real recovery, no momentum, and no visible impact from Labour's economic policies. Source: The Telegraph. UK economy shrinks again as output stagnates after election bounce, April 2025. Do you feel like things are improving in your town, in your income, in your daily life? Or are we still stuck exactly where we were a year ago? Now we turn to productivity, the engine of any successful economy. Productivity tells us how much value the average worker creates per hour, and the numbers here are deeply concerning. In 2024, UK productivity fell by 0.8%, double the drop in 2023, and the worst productivity collapse since the global financial crisis of 2008. Source: The Telegraph. UK productivity plunges in sharpest drop since global crash. February 2025. If productivity is falling, then how can wages rise? How can inflation be controlled? How can any nation talk about prosperity while its foundation is eroding? Let's look at inflation, the very reason millions voted for change in 2024, according to The Telegraph. Since the pandemic began, food prices are up over 30%. Electricity bills are up 57%, gas bills have surged 73%, and overall living costs have risen more than 25%. Source: The Telegraph. Rising bills and broken promises. Why cost of living remains unbearable. March 2025. Although inflation briefly dipped to the Bank of England's target of 2% just before the election in June 2024, it quickly rose again and now stands at 3.4% with forecasts warning of more increases. Source: The Telegraph. Inflation jumps again as Bank of England warns of more rises, May 2025. Does that feel like relief to you? Do these official figures match what you see at the supermarket, when you pay your bills, when you fill up your car? If you appreciate facts over slogans, hit like now, subscribe to England Now7, and turn on the bell so you never miss the real story behind the headlines. Now we move to perhaps the most surprising development, the criticism of Prime Minister Starmer by none other than Jeremy Clarkson. Writing in The Times. Clarkson slammed Starmer for abandoning his welfare reform proposals. Following pressure from Labour backbenchers, the original reforms could have saved £5 billion a year by 2030, but were scrapped after internal rebellion. Source: The Telegraph. Labour ditches key reform to avoid rebellion, June 2025. Clarkson wrote that if Starmer had stood firm and pushed the original bill, it would have been good for the country, but instead he backed down to save his own position. In his words, he squeakily abandoned it because all animals are equal, etc. Clarkson continued to say that the government is blind to nuance and political skill. Just like with the farm tax, he said they used a blunderbuss and hit everyone, instead of aiming properly. Source: The Times. Clarkson on Starmer Marxist in a suit. June 2025, he finished by saying that Starmer is a Marxist himself, that he needs the support of the Marxist wing of the Labour Party to pass any reforms, and deep down he doesn't really mind because he is one of them. Is Clarkson right? Is Starmer betraying his own promises to protect political safety rather than deliver real change? Now we move to the job market. Bank of England. Governor Andrew Bailey warned that unemployment is rising now at 4.5% and projected to hit 5%, soon bringing us back to lockdown-era levels. Source: The Telegraph. UK jobless rate rises amid business cutbacks, April 2025. At the same time, Chancellor Rachel Reeves introduced a £25 billion national insurance tax hike on employers, the largest single tax rise in her October budget source. The Telegraph NI hike to fund reforms hits small businesses. October 2024. Businesses say this tax is damaging hiring and limiting wage increases. UK job vacancies have dropped by over 40%, falling from 1.3 million to 736,000 by spring 2025. Source: The Telegraph. Job vacancies collapse as business confidence falters. May 2025. Does that sound like recovery to you, or are we watching a slow decline into something far more dangerous? Now to business confidence. According to the Institute of Directors, confidence among UK business leaders briefly rose after Labour's election victory, but collapsed within months, falling to levels seen during the Liz Truss mini-budget crisis and early pandemic chaos. Source: The Telegraph. Business confidence nosedives amid tax shock. March 2025. Why? Because Labour broke its election pledge not to raise taxes on business. Reeves later claimed the pledge applied only to employee taxes, not the much larger employer contributions. This left many companies feeling betrayed and prompted cuts to hiring, investment, and expansion. Finally, national debt. Despite record tax revenue, the budget deficit is still growing, and public debt is set to hit £3.4 trillion by 2030, up from the £3.1 trillion forecast under the Conservative source. The Telegraph. UK debt to hit record levels despite tax hikes. May 2025. Reeves changed the fiscal rules to allow more borrowing, while economic growth remains weak. Inflation returns, and spending, including military budgets, continues to rise. Many experts now expect further tax increases through frozen thresholds or direct hikes. So here is the reality after 1 year of Labour rule. The economy is stagnant, inflation is rising, productivity is falling, unemployment is growing, debt is ballooning, and business confidence is vanishing. Was Labour's landslide victory truly a new beginning, or just a new chapter in Britain's ongoing crisis? Tell us in the comments, do you believe Starmer has a real plan, or is he simply trying to hold on to power while the country falls apart? Like this video if you support facts over political spin. Subscribe to England Now7 and hit the bell icon so you never miss the truth behind the headlines. We'll see you in the next episode.